As far as the city government goes, we rely heavily on local aid. And beginning in February of 2009, our local aid was slashed dramatically. And that caused a number of actions by the city government in order to try and rein in our spending in order to meet our revenue sources. So it's been very, very tricky from the city side in making sure that we can still provide services and stay within the budget that we now have. Our local aid numbers have fallen in a one-year period of time by about $11 million. So that is a significant amount of money, about a 10% cut when you're looking at things that are from a discretionary standpoint. There's some things that we have to fund regardless of how much money we receive. The first things that go in to the kitty are things for health care, things for pension, unfunded liabilities, different obligations that the city has. But then in the discretionary areas, which means people power, we've had to do some severe cutting.
The sources of funding that the city receives that have been hit the hardest are definitely the local aid line item. The local aid line item has been cut from about $7 million net to close to $3 million. That, of course, again, affects just all the general operations of the city. So one of the things that we've had to do is to downsize government, try and do more with less. So one of the strategies that we've undertaken is we had 22 departments in the city, and we decided that that's a lot of departments in good or bad times. So we reconfigured city government so that we only had 10. By having 10 departments instead of 22, we were able to, mostly through attrition and retirement, because one of the things we were trying to do is to not lay off people, is to then be able to combine services. And we actually found that this, even though it's an economic downturn, even though we have less money, creating the opportunity to downsize, creating the opportunity to bring different departments together has actually made city operations a lot more efficient. So in some ways, I'm glad we were able to successfully do this type of change in terms of just being much more efficient. But of course, it was a long and difficult process to get here.
But the drop-off in local aid has really required us to make reductions in staff. We've, over the last year and a half, we've eliminated about 10% of our workforce, about 150 positions total, mostly through attrition. We just haven't filled positions, but we had to lay off about close to 50 people back in July of 2009. And that has had an impact on services, certainly. We're down considerably in our police department. We're down in our fire department. We're substantially down in our public works area, which is a real concern to me, because that's where the city has really been lacking over the years in terms of maintaining the infrastructure and investing in the infrastructure. So those are the areas that we've really cut back. But we're forcing people to do more with less, and I think that's part of our job as municipal managers. But at the same time, it certainly has affected services. This past year, this fiscal year, we've seen a reduction of about $12 million on top of the cut last year. Our property taxes have stayed pretty stable in terms of their growth. We're going up 2.5% a year, even though we're still $5 million below the levy limit. We're still going up, Proposition 2.5 levy limit, we're still going up just the 2.5%. And it's the new growth that we're pulling in. So that stayed pretty constant. We've had a small drop off in some of our local receipts from building permits or from things like that. We don't have much in the way of available funds. That's been a problem that I've dealt with since I became city manager 3 years ago, is that we don't have, the city really went through its reserves from 2002 to 2006, and we don't have any of that to fall back on. So the biggest problem we've had has been local aid, and we'd like to be able to find some other sources of revenue if we can. But clearly we need to grow the city's economy, and we're making efforts to do that.